The moment they left, they thought it was over. They assumed you'd break down, that you'd reach out, that you'd do everything in your power to prove your worth to them. They expected late-night messages, long explanations, desperate attempts to win them back. But instead they got nothing. No words, no anger, no reaction, just silence. And now, something strange is happening. Their confidence is starting to waver. At first they brushed it off, convinced they had made the right choice. But as the hours turned into days and the days into weeks, that silence began to grow, expanding like an empty space they never noticed before. At night, they check their phone without meaning to. They scroll through old conversations, expecting to see something, anything, that reassures them they still have control. But all they find is absence. The silence isn't just quiet. It's deafening. It forces them to confront a truth they never considered. They didn't just lose you. They lost someone who truly cared. And now, they are the ones struggling to understand why you aren't reacting. As Epictetus once said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. Discourses, Book 2. You are no longer playing their game, and that is what terrifies them the most. This is not just another video about rejection, this is a wake-up call. Stay with me, because today you are going to understand the true power of silence, how it turns the tables, how it forces them to feel the loss, and how, by doing absolutely nothing, you regain everything. This is not about them, this is about you stepping into your own strength. By the end of this video, you will never see rejection the same way again. The real-life story. Here is the rewritten and expanded version of your story with 800 words, crafted to deeply resonate with the audience, making them feel every moment as if it were their own. There was a time when you would have done anything for them. The moment their name appeared on your screen, you dropped everything. You answered within seconds, no hesitation. It didn't matter what you were doing, where you were, or how you felt. You were there, always there. They needed you, and you showed up. Even when they were distant, even when they made you question your worth, even when they left you waiting, unsure if they even cared. You thought that if you gave more, if you loved harder, if you proved your worth just a little bit more, they would finally see it, see you. But they didn't. One day, without hesitation, they walked away. Maybe it was a message, short, emotionless, as if you had never meant anything. Maybe it was a long, exhausting explanation filled with words that said nothing at all. Or maybe they didn't say anything, just silence, just absence, just that hollow feeling in your chest, the slow, sinking realization that someone who once held a place in your world now treats you like a stranger. At first, it felt unbearable. Your mind became a battlefield of questions. What did I do wrong? Should I have fought harder? Do they even care? Your fingers hovered over your phone, every instinct telling you to reach out, to send a message, to fill the space they left behind. Anything to break the silence, anything to make them remember. But this time, you didn't. This time, you did something they never expected. You disappeared. No desperate messages, no closure-seeking calls, no late-night, I miss you confessions. Nothing. You simply vanished. At first, they didn't notice. They went about their life as if you had never been a part of it, convinced that you would eventually break, that it was only a matter of time before you came crawling back. But then, something changed. Days passed, then weeks, and suddenly it hit them. The absence, the void, the realization that the person who was always there was no longer there. They pick up their phone, scrolling through your last conversation. Their fingers hover over the screen, debating whether to send a message. But pride holds them back. They haven't reached out, they think. Maybe they don't care anymore. And that thought, it stings in a way they never expected. The silence becomes unbearable. It was supposed to be easy. They thought they had won. But now, something is wrong. They check their notifications, looking for your name. Nothing. They go through old messages, searching for reassurance that you still care. Still nothing. It's in the quiet moments when they are alone with their thoughts that they feel it the most. Because now, they are the ones left with questions. Now, they are the ones craving answers. They start wondering, have you moved on? Are you happier without them? Did you ever need them as much as they thought? Were they wrong about you? And for the first time, a new thought creeps in. What if you were never the one who needed them? What if they were the one who needed you? At night, they check your social media, scanning for a sign that you're still thinking about them. They look for sadness, for pain, for anything that proves they still matter to you. But instead, they find silence. No cryptic posts, no emotional outbursts, just nothing. And that nothing is louder than any words you could have said. Because if you had begged, if you had pleaded, if you had given them the validation they expected, they would have felt nothing. They would have walked away knowing you were still there, waiting, suffering, hoping. But silence. Silence is unsettling. Silence is power. Silence forces them to confront what they threw away. It forces them to sit with the reality that maybe, just maybe, they lost something they will never get back. And here's the truth. It was never about them. It was always about you. You are not someone's afterthought. You are not someone's backup plan. And you are not someone who needs to prove their worth to someone who couldn't see it in the first place. As Epictetus once said, it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Enchiridion 5. And you? You didn't react. And that is what's driving them insane. Why your silence drives them insane. Silence is not the absence of words. It is the presence of something far greater, an undeniable force that lingers in the spaces between what is said and what is left unsaid. When they walked away, they expected a reaction. They thought you would plead, argue, or desperately seek closure. That was the script they had written for you, the one they believed you would follow. But instead, you broke the script entirely. You did nothing. No messages, no explanations, no attempts to make them see what they had lost. Just silence. At first, they might have felt relief, believing they had made the right choice, certain that you would eventually crumble. But as the hours turned into days and the days into weeks, that silence began to take on a weight they never anticipated. It crept into their quiet moments, settled into their subconscious, and forced them to confront something they had not considered. You are no longer within their reach. They check their phone instinctively, scanning their notifications, looking for some sign that you still care. But there is nothing. The void you left behind grows wider, and with it, a sense of unease begins to spread. This is the paradox of silence. It says more than any words ever could. When someone rejects you, they expect validation of their decision. If you react emotionally, if you lash out or try to prove your worth, you confirm their assumption that they were right to leave. But when you withdraw completely, when you refuse to give them the reaction they were waiting for, you create uncertainty. And uncertainty is the most unsettling feeling of all. The human mind despises unfinished stories. When something is unresolved, the brain keeps revisiting it, trying to make sense of it, trying to fill in the gaps. Your silence has become an open question that they cannot answer. They start to wonder, have you moved on? Do you even care anymore? Were they wrong about you? The very confidence they once had begins to erode. They thought they had control, But now, for the first time, they are the ones left wondering. This is why your silence is so powerful. It forces them to sit with their own choices, to reflect on what they have done without the comfort of your presence softening the blow. You have taken away their ability to shift blame, to justify their actions by your reaction. Without a response, all that remains is their own decision staring back at them. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Meditations, Book 6. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom. You do not control their actions, nor do you control their feelings, but you control your response. And in choosing silence, you have taken back your power. You are no longer giving them the satisfaction of knowing where you stand. You are no longer feeding their ego, making them feel like they still matter in your world. This silence is not passive. It is an active force that disrupts everything they expected. It is the moment in a story when the music stops, when the protagonist disappears, when the ending remains unwritten. They are left to sit in the quiet, to replay memories with a new perspective, to feel the absence where your presence once was. It is in this space that regret takes root. They remember the sound of your laughter, the warmth of your attention, the kindness they once overlooked. And for the first time, they begin to understand that your silence is not weakness, it is strength. There is a concept in psychology called the Zeigarnik effect, which explains why the human mind fixates on unfinished stories. When something is left unresolved, it lingers, occupying space in our thoughts, demanding attention. Your silence is the ultimate application of this principle. It leaves them with no closure, no certainty, only questions that they must answer for themselves. This is not about playing games or seeking revenge. It is about reclaiming your dignity and allowing them to experience the full weight of their decisions. As the days pass, they start looking for you in places they never expected. A song plays, and they think of you. They pass by a familiar spot, and a memory surfaces. They hear a phrase you used to say, and suddenly they miss you in a way they cannot explain. But you are no longer there, and that realization is what truly shakes them. If you had begged, if you had fought, if you had tried to make them see your worth, they would have walked away feeling justified, feeling in control. But now they are left with a silence that they cannot escape, a silence that makes them question, that makes them reflect, that makes them feel the loss in a way they never expected. This is the power of doing nothing. This is the power of stepping back, of walking away, of letting your absence become the loudest message you could ever send. There is a moment in every story where the tables turn, where the one who was once ignored becomes the one who is remembered, where the one who seemed weak is revealed to be the strongest of all. This is that moment, and the greatest part. You did not have to say a single word. The stages they go through when you go silent. Silence is a powerful tool, a presence that speaks volumes without uttering a word. When you withdraw from someone after rejection, you aren't simply retreating, you are creating a void. This silence doesn't just leave space, it fills that space with more meaning than any words could. And as that void lingers, it forces those who once occupied your world to question everything they thought they knew about you, themselves, and the relationship. At first, they may not even notice. They may move on, believing that your absence is simply a fleeting reaction. But as time stretches on, something shifts. The silence they initially dismissed begins to sink in. And with each passing day, that silence grows, expanding beyond what they expected until it becomes unbearable. Stage 1. The illusion of indifference. In the initial moments of rejection, they are convinced of their control. They believe that they made the right choice, After all, they were the ones who left. The silence you gave them is nothing more than a brief reaction, a temporary withdrawal of attention that they can easily dismiss. They assure themselves that this is a game, that you will eventually give in, that you will break under the weight of your emotions and reach out. At first, they feel nothing but a quiet sense of relief, sure that they have won. You are supposed to be the one who suffers, the one who cannot live without them, but they hold the belief that you'll eventually cave. You'll send that desperate message. You'll ask for closure. You'll fight to prove your worth. They keep telling themselves they'll reach out eventually. They're just playing hard to get. This is all part of the game. So they wait. Time passes, and they continue to reassure themselves that you're just waiting for the right moment to reach out. But as days slip into weeks, that certainty starts to waver. The silence doesn't feel like it's fading. It lingers in the air, and with it comes something new, an unease they didn't expect. They begin checking their phone compulsively, waiting for a message, an acknowledgement, something, but nothing. The silence that once seemed insignificant now feels strange, unsettling. They start to wonder, why hasn't there been any response? Stage 2. Curiosity and anxiety. At this stage, curiosity starts to take root. Their initial confidence begins to crack as they realize that your silence isn't as fleeting as they thought. They expected you to react, to send a message begging for their attention. But when none of that happens, anxiety creeps in. They begin to wonder if you are truly unaffected, if you have truly moved on. The silence becomes more unsettling. They begin to search for any signs of you, anything that might indicate how you are coping, what you are doing. They might check your social media profiles more frequently than they would like to admit, hoping to find clues that will reassure them that you still care, that you are still thinking about them. But there's nothing. Your posts are minimal, and the ones you do share seem distant, unaffected. You don't post emotional rants, and you certainly don't seem desperate for their attention. Instead, you appear to be thriving. You seem at peace, and that unsettles them the most. The fear sets in. They start to wonder, what if they have moved on completely? What if I've been replaced? The anxiety gnaws at them. They find themselves checking their last seen status, hoping to see a sign that you are still paying attention. They might even reach out to mutual friends, casually asking about you, but they're really just searching for reassurance. They want to know that they still matter to you, that they haven't lost their place in your life. But the more they search for these answers, the more they realize they can't find what they're looking for. This is the moment when they start to feel something they never expected: anxiety. They were supposed to feel relieved, to feel like they were in control, but now they feel like they are spiraling. Stage 3. Doubt and regret. As the silence lingers, the initial anxiety transforms into something deeper. It starts with doubt. They begin questioning everything. Did I make the right choice? Was this really the right decision? The regret doesn't come all at once, but it builds quietly, slowly creeping into their mind. In the stillness of their thoughts, they start to remember. They remember the way you cared for them. They recall the small gestures, the kindnesses, the patience you showed them. They remember how, despite the flaws, you were always there for them. And now they realize what they have lost. They replay moments in their mind, not the difficult ones that justified their departure, but the good ones, the moments that they took for granted. As time goes on, those memories feel heavier, more meaningful. And then the doubt sets in. Was I wrong to leave? At night, when they are alone with their thoughts, the quiet becomes deafening. It's in those moments that regret takes root. They wonder, what if I can't get them back? The realization dawns on them that they may have thrown away something they will never find again. Stage 4. Inner torment and the urge to reach out. At this point, the emotional toll of the silence has fully set in. The regret they feel is no longer a fleeting thought. It's a constant companion, gnawing at them, eating away at their sense of peace. They feel the absence of your presence as a tangible thing, a weight they can't escape. The urge to reach out becomes overwhelming. They grab their phone, open your chat, type a message, then hesitate. They don't want to admit they were wrong. They don't want to be the one to break the silence, to be vulnerable. But the silence is relentless, mocking them, refusing to let them find closure. They wonder if you would even respond if they did reach out. That uncertainty eats at them. The fear of rejection is now stronger than the desire to reconnect. They want to reach out, but they fear the coldness they may encounter. They wonder if you have moved on completely, if your life is better without them. The longer they wait, the more their mind unravels. Every little thing reminds them of you, of what they lost. The inner torment becomes unbearable. They may finally give in and send a message, hoping for some acknowledgement, some sign that you still care. But in doing so, they risk losing the power that your silence has given them. The ultimate test, holding your ground. This is the moment where everything is at stake. The silence, which has been their emotional battleground, has led them to the edge. They feel regret, doubt, anxiety, and an overwhelming urge to reach out. The test is here. Will they break the silence, or will they hold their ground? This is where Stoicism becomes your greatest ally. As Marcus Aurelius said, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." This is not just about them, it's about you. Stepping into your strength, embracing your self-worth, and living for yourself. You've already given them your silence, and that silence is the key to reclaiming your power. If they truly valued you, they will fight to come back. If they don't, their absence will be your gift. Their absence will give you the space to grow, to build a life where their opinion no longer defines your worth. You have already reclaimed your sense of self, and in that, you win. The silence you chose isn't a passive state. It's an active decision, a declaration that you are no longer defined by someone else's rejection. It's the moment when you take control of your own story, when you stop living for their validation and start living for yourself. And the best part? You don't need to say a single word. Silence is the loudest message you can send. It forces them to face the reality of their choices, to feel the weight of their actions, and to question everything they thought they knew. If you had begged, if you had pleaded, they would have walked away feeling justified. But now, your silence forces them to face the consequences of their actions. It makes them question their own decisions, to wonder if they have lost something irreplaceable. This is the moment of transformation, the moment when you realize that the power was never in their hands. The power was always in yours, and when you hold your ground, when you continue to embrace the silence, you become the one who has won. Mistakes to avoid after rejection. Silence, when used with intention, is a weapon of self-respect, discipline, and ultimate power. But after rejection, most people misuse it, falling into patterns that weaken them rather than strengthen them. They seek validation, act out on social media, or remain frozen in time, waiting for something that may never happen. This is not just a loss of dignity, it's a surrender of control. The Stoics taught that suffering is only suffering if we allow it to be. Every rejection, every setback, every departure is an opportunity to reclaim our power. But that only happens if we avoid the mistakes that keep us trapped in an endless cycle of self-inflicted pain. Mistake 1. begging for attention. Rejection is painful because it makes us feel powerless. The instinct to regain control can push us into desperate actions, reaching out, explaining, trying to make them see what they've lost. You tell yourself that if you could just have one more conversation, if you could just remind them of the good times, if you could just make them understand, maybe they would change their mind. But here's the truth. If they truly valued you enough to stay, they wouldn't have left in the first place. Begging for attention doesn't make someone rethink their decision. It confirms it. When you plead, text excessively, or chase after someone who rejected you, you are reinforcing the idea that you are beneath them, that they hold the power, that their absence is devastating to you. Instead of creating doubt in their mind, you validate their choice. You show them that you are still emotionally attached, still suffering, still willing to give them a role in your life they have already abandoned. This weakens you in their eyes and, more importantly, in your own. You lose self-respect every time you ignore your own dignity to seek validation from someone who discarded you. Imagine if, instead of reacting emotionally, you chose the path of strength. Imagine if, instead of reaching out, you walked away completely, allowing them to feel the full impact of your absence. When you do this, you reclaim control. You shift the power dynamic, not by manipulating, but by showing them, and yourself, that your worth is not dependent on their acceptance. Epictetus once said, "Who then is invincible? The one who cannot be upset by anything outside their reasoned choice." Discourses, Book 1. If someone rejects you, they are making a choice. What you do next determines whether you give them the power to dictate your emotions or whether you stand firm in your own self-worth. Mistake 2. Overcompensating on social media. In the modern world, rejection doesn't just happen in private, it plays out on screens for an audience. The need to prove that we are fine, that we are thriving, that we are unaffected, can lead to an overcompensation that is painfully obvious. You start posting more, trying to appear happier, trying to make them notice. You craft an image of success, of moving on, of newfound joy, hoping that they'll see it and regret their decision. But here's the paradox. The more you try to prove that you are unaffected, the clearer it is that you are still affected. People see through it. They can tell when someone is truly living their best life versus when they are performing for an audience. And the person who rejected you, they see it too. Instead of making them doubt their decision, your exaggerated posts reassure them. It tells them, "I still care what you think." It shows them that their opinion still controls your actions. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." Meditations, Book 10. The same applies here. Waste no time trying to prove you have moved on. Actually move on. Strength doesn't need to be broadcasted. Happiness doesn't need an audience. If you truly focus on yourself, on your growth, on your purpose, your transformation will be undeniable. Not because you displayed it for them to see, but because it became real. If you must use social media, let it be a reflection of your genuine journey, not a calculated attempt to make someone regret their choice. True confidence is quiet. True healing happens in private. And the moment you stop caring about what they see is the moment you finally set yourself free. Mistake 3. Waiting for them to come back without growing. The most dangerous mistake after rejection is waiting. You tell yourself that time will change things, that if you stay patient, they will realize what they lost. You convince yourself that their absence is temporary, that they will wake up one day and regret leaving. But waiting is stagnation. It steals your time, your energy, your chance to grow. Nothing lowers your value more than being stuck in the past while the rest of the world moves forward. The reality is, if someone ever regrets leaving, it won't be because you waited. It will be because you evolved into someone they can no longer ignore. And if they never regret it, then you have still won, because instead of wasting months or years longing for someone who left, you will have built a life so fulfilling that their absence is irrelevant. You are not a supporting character in their story, waiting for a plot twist that brings them back. You are the main character of your own life. The people who belong in it will recognize your worth without you having to prove it. Seneca once wrote, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." Letters to Lucilius. If you waste time waiting, you are missing the opportunity to become someone stronger, wiser, and more self-assured. The right actions. Transforming pain into power. Pain is inevitable after rejection, but suffering is optional. The Stoics taught that what happens to us is outside of our control, but how we respond is entirely within our power. Strength is built in what comes after rejection. You must disappear, not to manipulate, not to punish, but to liberate yourself. You must remove yourself from their world so completely that they are forced to confront the emptiness left behind. If they come back, it must be on their own, not because you baited them into regret. You must shift your focus entirely to yourself. This is not about revenge, not about making them notice, but about turning your energy inward towards self-mastery. Build your body, expand your mind, cultivate relationships that enrich your life instead of draining it. Invest in what makes you better. The people who matter will see it, and those who left, they are no longer your concern. Above all, let go of the need for validation. True strength is when you no longer require acknowledgement from those who walked away. If they were meant to stay, they would have. If they can leave so easily, they were never truly yours to begin with. Marcus Aurelius said, "If someone can leave you, let them. What is truly yours will find its way back." This is not just philosophy, this is the ultimate test of self-respect. If someone values you, they will not need to be convinced to stay. If they do not value you, no amount of chasing, posting, or waiting will ever change that. So choose yourself, not in anger, not in bitterness, but in wisdom. Let them go, and in doing so, set yourself free. This is how you win. Your silence is not just the absence of words, it is the presence of strength. It is the declaration that you do not need to beg for respect, that your worth is not determined by those who fail to see it. The great Stoics understood this well. If someone can walk away from you, let them. True power lies in your ability to walk away too, not as an act of revenge, but as an act of self-respect. This journey is not about them, it is about you. The rejection you faced was not a loss, it was a lesson. A lesson in detachment, in resilience, in understanding that your peace is never in the hands of another. Your silence forces them to confront the void they created, but more importantly, it forces you to step into the fullness of your own life. If this message resonated with you, let me know in the comments. Have you ever used silence as your strength? What did you learn? Your experience might be the very thing that helps someone else reclaim their power. And if you found value in this, support this channel by hitting like, sharing this with someone who needs it, and subscribing for more insights rooted in Stoicism and self-mastery. Now, I leave you with this question. Are you brave enough to choose silence over desperation, peace over chaos, self-worth over validation? Think about it. And remember, the strongest voices are sometimes the ones that say nothing at all.